It was the most beautiful home on the block, and it was like you're entering into a wealthy home in China.
Nona Mock Wyman came to the Ming Quong Home for Girls in 1946. She was 12 years old and had already been living in orphanages for most of her life. She remembers entering her new home.
When you go up the front steps, there's the two lions to guard you, and it's a very impressive house.
It was a big blue Victorian building with a well-kept garden on the edge of Oakland's Chinatown. Wyman says it stood out from the run-down houses nearby. The home was called Ming Quong, Chinese for radiant light, and it was run by the Presbyterian Church. It housed girls whose parents had died or couldn't take care of them. Nona Mock Wyman says coming to the home was like walking into a mansion.
And the living room is very big, and it has nice antique Chinese furniture that was probably donated to the home. And Chinese rugs.
On one side, an elegant staircase with a gleaming wooden handrail led to the second floor where the girls slept. It was often referred to as an orphanage, but not all the girls were orphans. Wyman says no one explained to her why she was given up as a small child, but she believes it was because her mother was sick with tuberculosis.
I came to the home when I was 2.5 years old, crying and screaming my little head off.
Wyman's friend, Bernice Lee Gu, knows exactly why she ended up at the home for girls. Her mother had already passed away.
In my case, my father worked at night, and so as a result, my brother and I ran wild doing all kinds of things until juvenile hall came in, and then they contacted the Presbyterian Board of National Missions.
In some cases, a culture clash was at play. Some Protestant reformers believed working-class parents, especially single parents, couldn't raise their children properly. In any case, for Nona Mock Wyman and Bernice Lee Gu, Ming Quong was home. Most of their childhood was spent in the beautiful Victorian with about 25 other girls, some of whom came to be like sisters.
We couldn't wait for a new girl to come because we could, what's your name, da-da-da, and everything, where are you from?
What do you have? Let's look at your clothes.
But mostly, Lee Gu says the girls lived a life of routine and discipline.
When we got up, we did our whatever chores we were assigned. Then we had breakfast. Then we had to go upstairs, make our beds, and clean our rooms. And there was a sheet on the door when the staff member came in and inspected your room. If something wasn't right, she would write it on the door.
Still, there was time for play. Any house full of teenaged girls is bound to have its share of inside jokes and pranks.
We used to have this really funny joke we used to do. You probably don't know the song. It goes, you sigh, the song begins, and I hear music, and it's magic, and then we take the back of someone's bra and snap it, and everybody would laugh.
It was at Ming Quong that the girls grew into women. Mock Wyman admits that her nickname was Greenhorn because she didn't know anything about the opposite sex. Both women remember the boy they had a crush on. Mock Wyman, now 76, holds up a drawing of a boy with high cheekbones, his hair slicked back like a character from Grease.
Bernice, who is this person?
That is Bobby Joe.
And who is Bobby Joe?
Well, he was first Leela Young's boyfriend. And then after she left, was yours?
No.
I was last.
Just once. You were actually his girlfriend? Mm-hmm. See, I didn't even know that.
Even 60 years later, the two women are giggling like schoolgirls as they look at the picture.
I just know that you were infatuated with him, so I just brought this here today just so you...
To perk me up. Doesn't he look like a movie star?
Although the girls' lives were a lot like those of other young women, sometimes it was clear they were different.
At the home, if your mother was alive, you wore a red rose.
Was it on Mother's Day?
Mother's Day.
Right.
And if your mother was deceased, you wore a pink rose. So because my mother never came to visit me, after all these years, I would say, is my mother still alive? I'd ask the teacher that.
One year, the teachers gave Nona Mock Wyman a pink rose because they decided that her mother had probably died from tuberculosis.
So how about you, Bernice?
No, I always had the pink rose because they knew my mother was gone.
We were just all happy everybody had a rose.
Yeah.
The girls didn't know any other way of life, And Mak Wyman remembers how difficult it was to leave her Ming Quong family after she graduated from high school.
It was like the worst part of my life.
Girls weren't allowed to stay once they became adults.
Leaving the home that you grew up in, leaving all the girls. I cried all the way from Oakland to Palo Alto.
Today, Mak Wyman owns a boutique in Walnut Creek named after the home she grew up in, and Li Gu is retired. Every few years, a group of Ming Quong girls meets to talk about their time together. But while they've stayed in contact, their former home was eventually torn down to make way for the Lake Merritt BART station. The women visited the site on one of their reunions.
When we walked around and I said, well, this is where I lived, and here it was a BART station.
It was so beautiful, too.
I know.
The casual passerby would have no way of knowing what used to be where the station is now. The history of the Ming Quong home is kept alive only through the memories of the women who grew up there. To help preserve those stories, Nona Mak Wyman wrote a memoir about her time in the orphanage called Chopstick Childhood. The 3-block area that included Ming Quong Home for Girls is now up for redevelopment again. The BART Plaza that replaced the home may itself be transformed with new buildings and public spaces, continuing a cycle of change that sometimes leaves the past behind in the quest for a better future. In Oakland, I'm Annabelle Peterson for Cross Currents.